You're not allowed to cook brisket like a steak. That's what everyone says, but I wanted to see if it's possible to make brisket steaks as good as ribeye for a fraction of the cost. So let's get smoking. I'm starting by cutting a full brisket in half and separating the point from the flat. There's no playbook for cutting a brisket into steaks because nobody does it, so we're just gonna have to figure it out. Here's a cross section of the point. This looks kind of like a ribeye with the point as the decal and the flat as the rest of the ribeye, so I'm going to slice it this way. I'm aiming for 2-inch steaks and slicing them all the way to the tip of the point, making them smaller as I reach the tip. That's 6 steaks already from this super cheap choice grade brisket. So if this works, it's gonna be great value for money. Now I'm slicing 2-inch strips off the flat and rolling them slightly so the grain will run vertically when I slice them after I cook them. And I'm leaving the tip of the flat as a larger steak with the grain running horizontally to see how that turns out. So that's 5 more steaks for a total of 11 massive steaks out of this brisket that was super cheap. 11 ribeyes or sirloins would run you at least 4 times more than the cost of these brisket steaks. But you're probably yelling at your screen right now and saying, Steve, you donut, you can't cook a brisket like a steak. The reason that we cook it low and slow is because it's got a ton of interconnective collagen and really tough muscle fibers, so we have to cook it low and slow up to a high temperature to tenderize it. Yes, I know, but that is why we're gonna test out some methods to tenderize these steaks before we actually cook them. The first method is sous vide. Theoretically, if I sous vide these steaks at 131 degrees Fahrenheit for 24 hours, they should be pretty darn tender while still being medium rare. So I'm taking some steaks and laying down some kosher salt on them. Then I'm pulling out my secret flavor weapon, Smoke Trail's BBQ Brisket Rub. It goes great on everything, including steaks, and you can find a link to purchase it in the description section below. And if you do, please try to purchase it from my website and not Amazon. Purchasing it from my website really helps me out a lot more. Also, if you run a small barbecue supply store or you know someone that does, let me know, reach out to me, and I'll give you a discount code so you can buy it in bulk from my website. I'm trying to get them into more ma and pop stores because a lot of people have been asking me, hey, where can I go in and buy these locally? And here is some blurry footage of me applying said rub to the steak for artistic effect, of course, and not because I'm a terrible videographer. Now I'm putting the steaks in a Ziploc with some beef tallow, sucking the air out, and voila, brisket in a bag. Kind of reminds me of my military days in the Canadian Army when we ate everything out of bags and also slept in bags, pooped in bags. It was basically life in a bag. Okay, that goes into the sous vide bath at 131 degrees for the next 24 hours. Well, we move on to the next tenderizing method. Next, I'm going to tenderize a steak with bromelain or bromelain. This is a proteolytic enzyme from pineapple. Proteolytic enzymes break down proteins in muscle tissue and collagen and tenderize them so they're easier for us to chew. And bromelain is particularly strong at doing that. I'm dissolving 10 capsules in a cup of water. Each capsule is 500 milligrams at 2400 gelatin digestive units, or GDUs, in strength. And oh my God, check this out. So this squirrel keeps sitting on top of my squirrel picnic table, and he won't sit at the actual seat and eat like a human, which is very frustrating. If anyone has any ideas to get them to do that, then please let me know, because these squirrels are starting to tick me off. They have absolutely no manners. Okay, one steak is going into the powdered bromelain, and I'll leave it there for 30 minutes. Now I'm going to test out natural bromelain by cutting up this pineapple, then I'll blend it into a puree in my Vitamix, and finally I'll just dunk my steak right in there and leave it for 30 minutes, and hopefully my wife doesn't walk by and think it's a smoothie. Bromelain is super effective at tenderizing meat, but it's so effective that if you leave it in too long, it will actually turn your steak into mush, and it'll be just really disgusting. So from what I've seen on the internet and other people's experiences, I watched a video that Guga did where he did a pineapple tenderized steak, and he suggested not leaving it in for more than 30 minutes. So that is what I did. I left it in for 30 minutes. 30 minutes later, I'm removing the steak and rinsing it in water to remove the puree. Just feeling the steak, it does feel a lot softer. For the final tenderizing method, this is more of a fun one. It's not for you to actually do at home. I'm dissolving a teaspoon of collagenase powder into a cup of water. Collagenase is another type of proteolytic enzyme that specifically acts on collagen. So whereas bromelain acts generally on the muscle tissues as well as collagen, it acts on all proteins in the meat, bromelain can lead to the muscle tissue tasting mushy and inedible if you leave it in for too long. But collagenase, on the other hand, only only acts on collagen. Brisket is tough because it has a lot of collagen, so theoretically collagenase could kind of selectively delete all of that tough collagen and just leave us with the nice soft muscle tissue without making it too mushy. Don't bother looking for this stuff. It's not yet FDA approved for use in food. That doesn't mean it won't ever be, but more studies need to be done on it in the context of using it in food. For now, I'm just experimenting with it because I like the concept of a proteolytic enzyme that specifically targets collagen and not other muscle fibers. So this is more for fun, but I thought it would be interesting. Okay, one brisket steak goes into the collagenase and we'll leave it there for 30 minutes. It probably needs more based on my research of collagenase, but I just want to keep it consistent with the pineapple bromelain, and maybe in future videos I'll do more experiments with it. To cook the steaks, I'm seasoning them and then putting them in my holding oven at 225 degrees to slowly come up to 130 degrees so I can reverse sear them. While this is happening, I'm lighting up my Oklahoma Joe's Marshall center box smoker and letting the coals fully light for 15 minutes. Once the steaks are up to 130 degrees internal, I rested them down a few minutes, and now I'm searing them on my Marshall. So I'm searing them on one side, then I flip them, and now that the rub is a little bit more set and it's not going to dissolve, I brush them with a little bit of beef tallow, then flip them again, and so on until they have a really nice sear on them. That looks really good, actually. Next, I move them to the top rack and I hit them with some barbecue sauce diluted with a little bit of apple cider vinegar. Flip them a few times, and these brisket steaks are done. Here are all the steaks I made, looking very steaky, and that's a lot of steaks. And again, I didn't even cook all the steaks, and that's still a lot of steaks for a cheap brisket. All right, guys, we have the control here. We have the sous vide steaks here. We have the, I'll call it the synthetic bromelain that was from the pills right here. And then we have the natural bromelain that was from the pureed pineapple right here. So let's cut into the control first. And I'll remind you guys that each of these control brisket steaks were not tenderized in any way. They are just au naturel. This one is the point muscle, so we'll cut this one. I'm just gonna cut it right in half, actually. I'll give you guys a look. A little bit over medium rare, probably. I probably overcooked it a little bit, but that shouldn't affect the tenderness too much. Let's see if we can pull this apart. I mean, it's really tough, as I would expect from a brisket point muscle that has only been cooked to 135, 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Still good though, really good flavor, good crust on it. Like, I could eat this. I could eat this. This is really good. Let's cut off another slice here. I'm gonna cut off this chunk of fat. I mean, if you slice it really thin, it is tough, but it's edible. It's just like a tough steak. There's nothing inherently wrong with it. It's just not super tender. Okay, let's move on to the sous vide steaks. We'll start with the point here. And again, I'm just gonna cut it right in half. I'll give you guys a look. Now let's cut a thin slice off here. Couple thin slices. Let's see how it pulls apart. I mean, it's still pretty tough. It is more tender than the control though, a lot more tender, and this is the one I'd prefer. Really good flavor too. Slice it like this. Now we're really getting against the grain, and you can see that looks almost like prime rib. So we'll pull it apart. It's a lot more tender than the control. Still got some tug to it, but I mean, no more tug than a ribeye would have. It's very prime ribby. Reminds me of prime rib. Surprisingly good. A little bit overcooked. Maybe it only needed 20 hours in the sous vide. Maybe 24 hours was too much. But this pretty much tastes exactly like prime rib, guys, which is pretty amazing. So I think proof of concept, brisket steaks do work. Sous vide them for 20 hours at 131 degrees Fahrenheit. Give them a quick sear. That's really good. Yeah, like I'd serve that up with some popovers, some mashed potatoes, some gravy. It'd be a good like traditional prime rib roast dinner on the cheap too. Super cheap compared to what a standing rib roast costs these days. You gotta slice it thin, even with the sous vide for 24 hours, it's still a little bit tough. So slice it thin, serve it like you would prime rib with mashed potatoes, gravy, popovers, Yorkshire puddings. Moving on to the bromelain. We'll cut the string off here. And to cut it against the grain, basically I have to do this. Okay, that's an end piece. A lot of tug. Let's get a slice from here. A lot of tug. A couple slices against the grain here. There's one right there. Ugh. It's tasty, it's edible, but I don't think it really got tenderized at all. Let's see what the natural bromelain did. This is from the pineapple puree. So we'll give this a couple slices. And this is a point slice, so it's not directly comparable, but maybe we can get some idea of what's going on here. This one looks really nice. Nice medium rare. Still pretty tough. I can definitely taste the pineapple. It's a little bit sweeter. I don't know if I prefer it or not. Let's slice it really thin. Really good flavor though, actually. Like, let's cut some of these little threads off on the end because they probably got some more proteolytic action. Okay, so those pull apart quite easily. That's a little bit more tender. So I think the natural pineapple bromelain worked a little bit better than the stuff that I got in pill form. And I think it got a lot more tenderized near the ends of the brisket steak. I think if you wanted to really tenderize a brisket with the pineapple bromelain, you'd have to puree a pineapple and you'd probably have to leave your steaks in there for about an hour. Normally, if you're doing a normal steak in pineapple puree, the max recommended limit is 30 minutes, but I think these are so sinuous and have so much collagen in them, you might want to do 45 minutes to an hour. This got pretty tenderized though. Like I could tell on the grill it was falling apart, but it still was not enough because in the middle of the brisket, it's still really tough. It did not break down the collagen really at all. Like I can't even pull that apart. Okay, now for the last one. This is the really experimental proteolytic enzyme that I was able to source. It is collagenase. Collagenase powder. Let's see if that did anything. Still pretty tough. Yeah, still pretty tough. And I'm not gonna try to eat this one because collagenase is not FDA approved for human consumption yet. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with it. I think that one day it probably will be approved. Doesn't really smell any different. I mean, I do wonder if it'll taste any different because the collagenase did kind of have a smell to it. But I think for future experiments, I'll have to leave the steaks in the collagenase for a lot longer because according to my research, the collagenase takes a lot longer to break down connective tissue. But in theory, if it just breaks down the connective tissue and just acts on the connective tissue and not the actual muscle fibers, then that could be a really good flavor experience, especially for brisket. Whereas other proteolytic enzymes such as bromelain and papain act on all of the protein, including the collagen and the muscle fibers in the steak, and they tend to turn it to mush. So that's for another video, but let's get to the answer to the question of this video, which is, can you cook a brisket like a steak? The answer is yes. Even if you just carve up a brisket into steaks, you season them, and then you sear them right away up to 130 degrees Fahrenheit, you're gonna get a pretty good steak experience. It's gonna be a little bit tough, but it is edible. Now, if you want it a lot more tender, you can sous vide it at 131 degrees Fahrenheit for 24 hours. I would actually probably go maybe 22 hours or 20 hours even based on the results in this video. And I would slice it thin and I would serve it like prime rib. You know, when you get a prime rib roast and you carve it off into thin slices so it's super tender, that is the same approach I would take to this. And I'd serve it up with gravy, mashed potatoes, Yorkshire pudding. But if you wanted to serve full steaks, it would still be really good, just a little bit tough. Unfortunately, I don't think brisket is gonna be competing with ribeyes anytime soon to replace your Saturday night steak dinner, but it is really good and it's really cheap, especially with the prices of beef these days, and you could feed a lot of people for dirt cheap using the sous vide method. If you guys have any other ideas for future Smoke Lab videos, let me know in the comments section below. Until next time, happy smoking.